I know in our previous video, we talked a little bit about the Black Ops 6 story regarding Russell Adler and Stage Kuzman. I hope that my thoughts are a little bit more gathered in this one, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Jane, Harrow, and Case. Those two characters that played supposedly a big part in the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 storyline. But after the storyline of the game, we didn't really hear from them anymore. And when we went into Warzone, there has been no mention at all about Case or Jane Harrow or anything like that. And I've never been a huge fan, as you guys know, of continuing the story in Warzone the way that they do. I like that we get more story tidbits here and there. I wish that every season that Warzone released a little bit of story, we got like 1 or 2 missions to play for the campaign. And I think that would be great because you get the best of both worlds. And we're actually able to see more the people that love the campaign, the people that love the stories, the people that pay Call of Duty and buy every year to play the campaign. We would get a little bit more rewards throughout the game's life cycle. But that's not the here nor there at this moment. Like I mentioned earlier, what I do want to talk about here is just Case and Jane Harrow. We see these two characters basically fight, and the tensions come to a breaking point by the end or the final mission of the story campaign for Black Ops 6. We see Case choking Jane Harrow and almost killing her while he's hearing voices in his head. And then as Case is choking her, the noise slowly fades away, everything turns to black. Now we know that they fell somewhere in the ocean. We know that because the helicopter that they were on took off and they crash landed. The helicopter started getting filled with water and Case started choking her. But we never see the true aftermath of this. We've talked about this when the game first released, about them potentially being alive. Jane Harrow maybe being alive, or Case being alive. Maybe Jane Harrow survived and, kidnapped Case, or maybe Case, he had those voices in his head and he wanted answers. He grabbed Jane and he kidnapped her to get answers. So there's a lot that could have happened to these characters. Did they really die? And I know we're revisiting an old topic. We're revisiting something that, happened a long time ago. So this is a topic that maybe other people have already covered, maybe other people have already talked on or speculated on. But the reason that I bring it up now is because season 5 is looming. I believe it comes out somewhere July or August. I think maybe August. I don't have the exact date. Maybe I'll put it up on the screen if I find it. But I think it's coming out around July or August. And for season 5, what's going to happen? Because if that is the final season, then we have to see an end to Pantheon. Is there a world where maybe one of the cinematics and us trying to defeat Pantheon and finally get to who the leader is, or finally get to the meat of the organization, we see maybe Jane Harrow come out with Case, and maybe everyone's surprised and shocked because they see Case and Jane working together? Could that be a twist? Could that be something that you guys would like to see? And maybe the reason that Case and Jane are working together is because somehow Jane was able to stop Case from choking her. They were able to escape, and she maybe used him and some of his weaknesses. He wasn't right in the head completely, as we already know. The cradle was really affecting him. The cradle was in his head. It was bothering him. Sometimes people said certain words or certain things, and he started kind of hallucinating and kind of fighting this thing in his head. So it was kind of crazy for him to control it. And maybe Jane, being a master manipulator and even being manipulated herself, she was able to turn Case to her side and maybe brainwash him again and use him for her purposes. And maybe Jane saw what Pantheon and the Rogue Black Ops teams were doing, what Kane was doing, and how all that was playing out, and she decided to take a step back, see how it plays out. With the help of Case, they started doing certain things and trying to wait for a perfect opportunity to attack. Maybe they see that Rogue team starts taking Pantheon out, and then she comes in with Case and they do something. Could that be a possibility? Could Case and Jane be alive? Could Case and Jane be working together? Will we see 1 or 2 of these characters again in season 5 to wrap up the Warzone Black Ops 6 story? And the reason that I mentioned it was because we never really saw them die. We never got a real resolution to these characters. All we have is speculation. All we have is theory. All we have is maybe this happened, maybe that happened. Well, I think this happened. We don't have a real answer to it. And I know that Black Ops is a franchise that loves to leave things open-ended almost. They love to not answer questions that they freaking pose. So maybe we don't get an answer at all. Maybe Jane and Case really did die on the helicopter, and then the Rogue Black Ops team, like Troy Marshall and Russell Adler and everyone else, just never, ever, ever, ever talks about Case again. And this little love thing that Troy had for Jane, completely gone, and he never mentions her again. Maybe we never see these characters again. Maybe there's no time. Maybe there isn't enough time to revisit these characters or do anything cool with them, because Call of Duty and Activision are probably already, preparing and ramping up for Black Ops 7. But this was something that I wanted to bring up this week to you guys as a conversation. What do you think really happened to Jane, Harrow, and Case? And do you think that there's potential or a possibility for them to reappear in Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Season 5 for Warzone.